Hey everybody, my name's Willie Penn. I am 18 years old. I have ADHD, autism, OCD, and probably some other stuff too. And I have more hobbies and interests than you could shake a stick at. Now, when it comes to school and academics, I've never really been the best student. I've generally averaged around C's and D's. But when it comes to things that I'm genuinely interested in, like my hobbies, I'm a completely different person. I have two personal stories for you today. They may seem irrelevant or unrelated, but there's meaning and significance to them, I promise, which I will get into at the end. With that being said, ever since early middle school, I've been obsessed with vintage arcade games. It all started when I began going to this local restaurant that happens to have a Miss Pac-Man machine in the corner. This thing was very fascinating to young Willie. Every time we would go, I would bring a pocket full of quarters to play and see how far I could get. I was very bad at the game, but that is besides the point. I was having a lot of fun, and my dad had clearly noticed this, and he had somehow found a nearby arcade that specialized in classic arcade games and pinball machines. Now, I didn't exactly know what pinball was, but if it was anything like arcade games, then it's got to be pretty fun, right? When we arrived at that arcade, I ended up spending the majority of my time there playing the pinball machines, way more than the arcade games. I think I played every single one that they had. They were all just so different and so fun, like nothing I'd really ever played before. And on my way out, I couldn't stop talking about how I wanted one of these machines for myself. A few months had passed since we had visited that arcade when my dad came up to me and showed me a Craigslist listing for a pinball machine that he was purchasing me. Now, of course, it wasn't working at the time, and I would have to fix it myself, otherwise it wouldn't have been listed at such a reasonable price. Now, I was 12 years old, and I had no idea how to work on stuff. I wasn't a handyman at all. I didn't even know how to change a tire. But did this discourage me? Did this stop me? No. I figured if someone else could do it, why can't I? How hard could it be? We ended up fixing that machine in about a week. I wouldn't say finished, more playable in about a week. I asked my dad what was wrong with it, and he said it was switches maladjusted on the player and credit unit. I don't expect any of you to know what that means. With this revelation of the fact that we are not only able to get pinball machines at a non-prohibitively expensive price, but repair them as well, one machine quickly became two, then three, then four. By now, we have worked on way more pinball machines than I could count. Our basement currently consists of 9 pinball machines and 7 arcade games, including a Miss Pac-Man machine of my own. Quite the collection, I must say. Now, I could talk about pinball for quite a while, but if there's one thing that I could talk about for longer, it's my car, and that is really saying something. While we were working on one of our pinball machines, we had to take a part over to my dad's friend's house so he could weld a piece back onto it that had broken off over the years. But as soon as we got there, fixing that pinball machine became the last thing on my mind when I saw the 1957 Chevy Bel Air in his driveway. That was the coolest car that younger Willie had ever seen, and I knew that one day I wanted to have a car as cool as that. Upon further research, I discovered that classic cars like that were incredibly expensive, and I would be lucky to get even a junker for a relatively affordable price. But did this discourage me? What do you expect? Absolutely not. I scoured Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist for the next several years looking for a classic in my relatively small budget, but to no avail. Until one summer morning while my dad and I were driving to the grocery store, the place where all incredible things happen. At the side of the road we drove past a very nice looking old car. Now, I didn't exactly know what car or year or whatever it was, so I pointed it out to my dad, and he immediately pulled over so we could check it out. The sign on it said that it is a 1964 Ford Thunderbird, and there was the seller's phone number on the sign. So, naturally, I sent him a text asking if it runs, and then we continued on our way to the store. When we got home, I ended up getting a call back, and he said that the price is right in my budget, but it was an auction, and of course, naturally, the car didn't work. I would have to fix it myself. Now, I was 16 years old at the time. I had absolutely no idea how to work on cars whatsoever, but did that discourage me? No. I figured that if somebody else could do it, why can't I? How hard could it be? I somehow ended up winning the auction at an undisclosed price. That weekend, my dad and I went and brought it home, and I immediately started working on it. In order to bid as much as I did, I not only had to borrow some money from my grandma, but I had to tap into some money that I had put aside to open up an investment account. You know, securing my future and all that. But it was worth it. It ended up taking about 6 months to get the car up and running. I use up and running very lightly. To this day, it's still got its quirks. I was originally going to bring it in today, but the old boy wasn't having any of it. But even with all the headaches, heartaches, I'd say as well, sleepless nights, blood, sweat, and tears, that car is my pride and joy, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Now, I ask you, why did this random kid get up on stage and tell me about pinball and cars? Why do these two stories matter? What do they have in common? The fact that I didn't wait. I wanted to do something, so I did it. I didn't wait for the circumstances to be perfect, or for the right situation, or any of that garbage. I just dove in head first and learned as I went along. Now, that's not to say I didn't take caution with my decisions or anything. Throwing caution to the wind, I would not recommend. But just jumping in head first, ultimately. If I would have waited until, say, I had learned how to work on pinball machines before I had bought one, then I would have never learned how to work on them in the first place. Because who wants to learn about how to fix something that you don't own? Or if I would have waited until I'd opened my investment account and been more financially stable in order to start looking for a nice car, then I wouldn't have learned that I liked working on cars when I did. And if I hadn't have learned that I liked working on cars, then I wouldn't have gotten into the auto repair industry, which I guess that could provide some financial stability. I'm certain that everybody in the audience tonight has something that they've been wanting to do for a long time and just haven't gotten around to it for whatever reason, that being you don't think the circumstances are right, or you're just lazy and don't feel like it. You know, all sorts of excuses and whatnot. To all of you in that boat, don't wait. Go start that project. Go do that thing. Go make that call, send that letter. Make that first step. Just get started. You will thank yourself later. And if you think that you don't have it in you, just remember, if someone else could do it, why can't you? How hard could it be? Thank you.